and gentlemen, may I present to you Crabtree Higgle Feathers. I don't know what this guy's name is. I don't care. And let's see. And I think, yeah. And this is from the Jimmy Dore show. Not an insurrection, because he's playing the Moon River clip, which, by the way, is from Benny Johnson. So we now know it explains a lot about Jimmy Dore's viewing habits, that he has the exact same fucking clip that Newsmax had. But whatever, we'll get to that in a moment. But he and Carl Higglefeather, that hates Liz Cheney, and it was all a lie. That's all you need to know. It was all a lie. We watched it with our own eyes. But who you gonna trust? Carl Higglefeather? I don't know. Who is it? Higbee. Carl Higbee. I liked mine better. Carl Higglefeathers. Who you gonna believe? Carl Higglefeathers or your lying eyes? You blind liberal piece of shit, you.
All right. Speaker Mike Johnson
all right. Yeah, baby.
Moved up a notch in my book, releasing all, or at least in the process of releasing all.
Yeah, all. Not some, but he's gonna all.
The Capitol tapes from January 6th. And it turns out.
Oh, it's very exciting.
That January 6th wasn't worse than 9/11. It wasn't worse than Pearl Harbor.
Okay. I don't know where this shit came from. It was the biggest attack on our system of government since 9/11. It was the biggest attack on our. Yeah, I mean, I don't know where the Pearl Harbor thing happens. It was all the way across the country, and it was in airplanes. This kind of idea that they didn't accomplish anything. So I would argue it's a lot closer to Oklahoma City. A lot less of a loss of life, but it was an internal hit by people a guy who considered himself a patriot, who decided that it didn't matter who he killed or hurt as long as he, attacked the U.S. government in Oklahoma. It was simply as impotent as those other things ultimately.
Dates that occupy not only a place on our calendars, but a place in our collective memory. December 7th, 1941, September 11th, 2001, and January 6th, 2021.
So that's actually not true. It's not even close, actually.
Actually, it is, because had these people been successful, they would have stopped the counting of the electoral votes and attempted, anyways, to change who would be president in the United States. Something that the other two acts weren't anywhere close to being capable of doing. 9/11 and Pearl Harbor both were incapable of affecting our peaceful transfer of power. I agree. I would argue, in that sense, worse than 9/11, worse than Pearl Harbor. Also, fuckwad, the comparison was not in both of those things used airplanes, and this was mostly pedestrian. I would argue is the biggest difference. Okay. Also, both of those acts, I would say Pearl Harbor was a longer process than 9/11, which was kind of by the time we knew it was on, the impact of it was largely truncated to a couple of hours. This was a longer process, and the attempt to actually overthrow the entire electoral process in the country was, they hunkered down for a long fight.
Actually, it wasn't a violent insurrection, and
yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Yes, it was. By the way, you're right. It was a violent attempted insurrection because it was run by failures and executed by failures.
It looks like there was more and more cattywampus afoot than partisan.
More cattywampus afoot. Okay, first of all, cattywampus is my mom's term, and it is a descriptive, not a fucking noun. Who left this bucket of cattywampus here is something no one has ever fucking said. Yeah, shenanigans can be a noun.
Morally bankrupt January 6th committee led us to believe.
Well, we go undercover as Antifa in a crowd. So, can you put that back in? All right, thank you so much. Yeah, it feels better. Did you guys get sprayed?
Well, also, here is one of the people arrested at the.
Yeah, dude, there were cops there that were not working there who were participating in it from other states who were arrested. Finish that whole thing out. Follow that through.
Capitol that apparently.
Also, who the fuck is posing as Antifa in there? What are you talking about? Were maggots inspired to attack on January 6th because Antifa told them to?
Apparently wasn't actually being.
And we've seen this shit a bunch of times where they caught this one guy and they let him go.
Arrested. They walked him to the door.
Arrested versus detained. Stop pretending you don't know the fucking difference.
Very nicely, took the cuffs off, fist bumped him, and let him go on.
No, he fist bumped them. They let him on his way because they didn't have time or the ability to actually arrest everyone that was involved in this shit. They cut him some slack and they let him go.
His merry way. You know what's interesting, though, about that last exchange with him? Normally, when somebody is arrested, the first thing the cops do is they strip any face cover off the subject to identify him.
Yeah, he was detained. Also, his face cover, I don't know. I haven't seen that. Hold on one second. We'll see. Because you don't really see.
Arrested at the Capitol that apparently wasn't actually being arrested. They walked him to the door very nicely, took the cuffs off, fist bumped him, and let him go on his merry way. You know what's interesting, though, about that last.
Yeah, what's interesting is that I think on the one hand, people are wearing masks because it's still COVID. Secondarily, which is the primary reason why they don't strip masks off people or face coverings because fucking COVID.
Last exchange with him. Normally, when somebody is arrested, the first thing the cops do
when it's not a pandemic
is they strip any face cover off.
Yeah, and if it's not during a pandemic,
the subject to identify him, maybe take
maybe even to catch an infectious disease from him.
The helmet off, but they didn't do that.
Well, he might have had some sort of a head injury. I mean, he was a Trump supporter.
They left it on. Why?
Because there were tons of people around, and that process would have drawn even more attention. They just got him out of the way and shoved him out.
I got a few guesses myself.
Well, fire him out, Carl Higgle-Fithers.
And we also still don't know how many people were undercover and why.
Okay, first of all, none were undercover. There were people who were informants. Two different distinct groups of people. It's like the difference between Trump being a Russian asset and a Russian asshat. Right? He wasn't actually an agent, and he often will say, they think I'm a spy, they think I'm an agent of... Nobody thinks that. Nobody thinks anybody would entrust you with a mission. They just know you're a fucking wind-up toy, and if they point you in the right direction, you'll start this fucking, trap of nonsense going forward. This, as a chaos agent, you'll walk... Basically, they'll wind you up and walk you towards the candle that's in front of the drapes. That's the point.
It even appears that the FBI doesn't know either.
How many undercover informants? FBI lost count of how many undercover... Well, a lot of people who were in there started calling in. They weren't informants at the beginning of the day, but they started informing on their fellow maggots once they realized that people among them had guns and knives.
Or at least they're maybe lying to us, or...
Maybe perhaps they know. Maybe
You just don't know.
Yeah, that's probably why. They're just lying to you. They've lost. They haven't really lost count. They know exactly.
It could be true. In fact, the chief of Capitol Police testified that he was also given no information on undercover agents and was advised not to respond to the January 6th.
We actually have evidence and records indicating plainclothes MPD officers were on Capitol grounds on January 6th. And you're saying you weren't aware that they would have embedded those officers within the crowd. They didn't make you aware of that?
No, sir, they did not make me aware of it. It's not unusual for agencies to have plainclothes units deployed around major events. But no, I was not made aware that they'd be on Capitol grounds.
Chief Son,
Right. But of course, there were like 6 of them. And instead of going, I'm a cop, anyone want to kick my ass? They just kind of phoned in some shit and said, hey, they're moving towards this door. You guys got to watch out. There, I saw a guy who might be armed, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. What were they supposed to do? Just fucking straight up start Jackie Channing everybody around them dressed as a maggot?
It's January 6, 2021. Have you testified?
By the way, can I just say, like, the sort of like just add water kind of naivete that these fuckers assume us to take? It's the same bullshit that the pro-Hamas crowd is taking, or the pro-Russia crowd is taking, that like all of a sudden we just got to suspend at like every intellectual capacity or any sense of history or knowledge about how anything normally functions in all the shit we've ever seen, both in news stories and in fiction and in nonfiction books we've read or seen on the issue. We just got to push all that aside and act like we're all fucking starting with scratch, like we're Lilu Dallas multipass landing in the like Earth, and we're just standing there dumbfounded, not knowing how. What is this? These weird noises coming out of people's faces. Shut the fuck up.
Or been asked to testify publicly before a committee of the House of Representatives?
No, sir.
Did the January 6th Select Committee ask you to publicly testify before their committee?
No, sir.
Weird. The chief of the Capitol Police wasn't invited to speak before the January 6th committee?
Yeah, because they didn't need to. He wasn't actually attacked on that day. He was in a coordinating position, but he didn't. What are you going to ask him? What are you going to bring him forward, James? Hey, you want more officers next time? You can't have them. Plus, there's not going to be a next time. Secondly, what'd you think while your officers were getting the shit kicked out of them by a bunch of maggots? And also, if you're going to run the whole "it was all a lie" bullshit, this is not the footage to show, dum-dum. Seriously, stick to the fucking, like, the moron tourists walking through hallways not realizing that they are being herded out an exit.
They also
look at this shit. Like, you're literally, look at the fucking bear spray.
The Capitol Police,
and they're throwing the tear gas things they've gotten from, they've either brought or they've gotten off of other people.
Before the January 6th committee? They also seem to fire some sort of either tear gas or smoke into the crowd that, from the looks of the video, which seems to be a pretty peaceful group with people standing there.
The fuck they are? Where do you think they got the shields from, shithead? Seems to be a pretty peaceful group. They were driven back at that point. Look at the other door, shitheel. Good Lord. Try harder.
Videotaping it. This begs the question.
Yeah, why don't they just let them come close to the door? Since they're having such a great time fighting them off and getting their spines crushed next door, why don't they just let them get closer? Why are they firing tear gas and smoke into a giant crowd of thousands of people trying to storm the fucking place who just built a goddamn gallows? I can't imagine.
What came first? The tear gas or the pandemonium?
The panda fucking monium, dum-dum. You wouldn't have... Who would they fire at if it was empty steps? How'd they get past the cops that were down there? You saw the footage. They knocked over the bike racks and started attacking the cops with it. What the fuck?
Did one cause the other?
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, the maggots were there to peacefully hang Mike Pence until somebody decided to tear gas them, and then they're like, fuck it. Kill the cops. It took one smoke canister for maggot to go from back the blue to bloody the blue.
We'll see.
We'll see. Eat shit. Look at this light.
I can tell you one thing. This level of force was not used the other day against the pro-Hamas demonstrators or at the White House.
What? Right, because they never made it up the steps of the fucking Capitol.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah, why don't they just fire into a crowd of people saying shit I don't like? It's like we live in fucking America or something. It's weird.
So why was it used here January 6th?
Because they're storming the Look! Hey, asshole! Look to your left! Look at that! What do you mean, why? Jesus Christ! Honestly. Please tell me the Newsmax audience isn't going just, yeah, oh yeah. Look, I mean, these people All they're there to pin a note on the door like Martin fucking Luther. That's what they want to do. It's just the begin. This is just another version of the beginning of the Protestant reform movement. What the fuck? This is like, yeah, this is live gaslighting, but done extremely poorly. Let's be honest.
The other thing we're now seeing from these videos is that it's very little confrontation with the police. If
It's very unconfrontational. Look at this fucking hallway. It's very unconfrontational. After they've already overrun the police and injured a bunch of them, and they've had to fucking fall back. They're outnumbered like 100-1.
any is shown. So far, there doesn't seem to be anything more than a...
Gee, it's almost like Mike Johnson is strategically releasing video at first that paints a different picture. Huh. Who would expect that a man of God would do such a thing? Right, Mike Johnson?
respectful interaction with the fuzz, and the crowd
The fuzz. Fuck you, you hippie.
turns around when they were asked to leave. The one
No, they don't.
spot of violence, the one spot, was Ashley Babbitt, who was
Whoa. Whoa. The one spot of violence. Yeah, no. No. Unless you count her punching the dude that wanted to go through the window who would have died so that she could be the first one through the window and she got shot. That violence?
the only one killed on that day, by the way, shot by the same Capitol police officer who is
Look at the cops running these motherfuckers
still
out.
employed.
Look at them forcefully working these fuckers to the door. Look at this dumb motherfucker saying this while this
with
plays
the
next
fuzz,
to him.
and the
Look at
crowd
this.
turns around when they were asked to leave.
When they're asked to leave. Yeah, in seconds.
The one spot of violence, the one spot, was Ashley Babbitt, who was the only one killed
this
on that
shit.
day, by the way, shot by the same Capitol police
They're literally pushing them out the door. They're literally like evacuating them from this one area.
officer, who is still employed and 2 years prior had left his gun unattended in a bathroom.
Oh, what does he think he is? An elementary school teacher in Florida?
Lieutenant Mike Bird. This guy fired a weapon at an unarmed woman.
How do you know? By the way, apparently, and this seems to be the case, if you crawl through a window of Carl Higbee's house after he's warned you several times not to, and you make it through the window, it's now your house. He will not fire upon you, and anybody that's with you isn't even responsible for cleaning up the glass.
Through a door with officers
No, not through a door. You see, the window had been broken. It was a barricaded, like there's 4 doors there.
directly in his line of fire right behind him.
No. And again, his whole thing is don't let anybody through that is still evacuating people.
I mean, as the video
Yeah, but even
goes on, it appears that both law enforcement and the protesters worked together to attempt to save her life and evacuate her from the video, which we won't show you because of how graphic it is. But it's
well, and also you don't want to break Greg Kelly's heart because he's convinced somehow that she was his soulmate and now she's gone.
freely available on the internet, and I encourage you to go watch it.
You encourage people to watch Ashley Babbitt get shot. I do not, because it's disgusting and sad, and you'd have to have a real kind of perverse streak to want to see it again if you haven't already seen it. Secondly, you realize they're breaking the window, and he is guarding that window, that door, and she crawls through after striking the guy who's trying to go through the window first, who would have died, by the way.
The only ones yelling and swearing appear to be the police officers, not the...
Oh, fuck. How dare they use fucking language like that? The fucking cops are the only ones yelling and swearing. This motherfucker. Run that by me again, shitheel.
Watch it. The only ones yelling and swearing appear to be the police officers, not the...
Oh, you mean the ones who are being crushed by the fucking mob? Also, eat shit. Also, Mooney Girl? No. No. The ACAB shit doesn't fly in my chat. No. Fuck you. Nope.
Protesters. We still have.
No. Never. Not ever. I'm not gonna not gonna lump a group of people who are civil servants into one fucking group all the time. And you might as well say all ambulance drivers are fucking evil because one of them got struck by a car, running through a red light or some shit. Get the fuck out of here. No, not ever. Not here. Plenty of places to say that. Not here. Well then, old school Shinobi, please leave. Not cool. No. I've seen too many fucking funerals of police officers who died trying to save people to put up with that kind of sick shit.
I haven't seen the other side of the footage from behind the shooter, whether or not confirmed lethal force was even actually needed.
It was needed. He was blocking a door. They had barricaded a door. She knew the door was barricaded. She'd been warned several times. They were smashing their way through an interior door of a building they weren't even supposed to be to in the first fucking place.
But from my vantage point, with a significant background in use of force, by the way.
Uh-huh. Yeah, what would be your significant use of force? Let's say, I don't know, let's say an Antifa person or a BLM rioter was coming through, was on their way to a Target that they were going to burn down, Carl, and your house happened to be next door. So they're coming through one window and going out the other. What would be your response there, dum-dum?
Doesn't seem to meet the bar.
No, it doesn't? You would have just let her in if that was your job? So here's another one. What if you're one of Trump's Secret Service details and he's in on an ante room at the DOJ because he was over there and there was a big bum rush post George Floyd and there was a bunch of George Floyd protesters and BLM people and they were rioting outside and one of them bashed their way through a window and the president was, a few doors away and they had gotten through into the second antechamber and you were blocking the door where he was just, 25 feet behind you. Then what? What are you going to do? Yeah? Tell me a story.
I'm sure more will be made public in the coming days, though. But the real question is, why was this never released under McCarthy?
Because as stupid as he is, he knows that what's ultimately going to be the result of this is a furtherance of, and a reminder of how awful January 6th was, and more of these maggots are going to go to jail. Because there are some of them that, quite frankly, just slip by. There's too much evidence, too much to follow, and the FBI and the U.S. Marshals and the D.C. police have been going through this fucking footage like crazy, and there are hundreds of these assholes who deserve jail time, and they just don't have the time to focus on all of them. And now, some of them are going to get renewed scrutiny because of you. That's what's going to happen. That's how it's going to shake out. You dumbasses are going to get more maggots thrown in jails. Yes, sedition hunters are on it. I don't know why you guys think this is a good idea.
What was he hiding? What deals did he make behind the scenes? Because if it was
with other Republicans to keep their constituents from going to fucking jail because there's going to be a bunch of them, and his own people were like, we had a group of people who've been calling my office thinking they want me to intervene on their behalf because they broke into the Capitol that day, and they insist they didn't do anything, but they did film themselves doing a bunch of awful shit. So nix.
It was so simple that Mike Johnson could just release it in a matter.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Franz Ferdinand, Joe Biden has committed treason so many times they cannot vote for him. He has never committed treason, you silly person. Frank, you're a silly person. He hasn't committed treason. You're a silly person. I honestly, I want our trolls to work harder, but today I don't know why we're not getting they're not setting their best.
Of a few weeks after taking the speakership, why didn't McCarthy do it in this 9-month tenure?
I don't know. Why did he give it to Tucker Carlson, and why didn't Tucker Carlson pass it on? He gave it all to Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson decided against it. Right?
You see why I never trusted him?
No, I don't, because Mike Johnson's doing the exact same shit. The difference is instead of just releasing it to Tucker Carlson, he's releasing it in batches to assholes like you. And it's not going to amount to a hill of beans. The most that will come of this is more maggots are going to go to jail, dummy.
We know the Democrats were ardently opposed to releasing the full tapes, obviously, probably
Because it shows where the security cameras are inside the Capitol, which for security purposes is dumb, and we all watched enough of it to know exactly what the fuck happened, and we also are sensible enough to know that when police are overwhelmed, often they will use secondary tactics, like diverting large riotous mobs without engaging with them so that they themselves don't get killed or the violence isn't inflamed further. But please continue, dum-dum.
for the exact same reason we're seeing now. It destroys their narrative completely.
Nope. No, it doesn't, stupid. When you put up "it was all a lie" and you're using Liz Cheney's head to hide the fact that these motherfuckers are climbing the scaffolding earlier than here's asshole, you can't even put the timestamps on this shit.
And the lengths that they went to lie, they deceived, they misled us on all the reason those tapes shouldn't be released, should be carved into everyone's memory as a monument to never trusting Democrats again.
Uh-huh. By the way, and they cut to Liz Cheney, which is amazing because she's really a Democrat. That's kind of the point, I think.
Donald Trump participated in each substantially and personally.
Yes.
He oversaw or directed the activity of those involved.
And thank God, because had a competent person actually arranged this shit, we might have had real trouble on January 6th, but it was an absolute failure from the top.
To be very clear, those who perform these reprehensible acts cannot be called protesters. No, these were rioters and insurrectionists, goons and thugs.
Carl Digby Sellers, right?
Brandon!
That's who. Is that who that is? El Stinko Farce? Do you think so? We're both enormous fans, sir. He doesn't write anymore. He has health problems.
Terrorists.
On January 6th, Trump knew the crowd was angry. He knew the crowd was armed. He
knew they were stupid.
Sent them to the Capitol anyway.
Yeah, and once they got there, they didn't know what to do. They were so confused. They ran all the way up the steps. They got to the door. They had their bear spray. Some of them had their knives. A couple of them had guns. Some of them had, the means to occupy the place for a while. They had the wood to build a fucking gallows and all that stuff. They didn't have any idea what to do after that. And then luckily, an FBI agent dressed as a maggot came up and went, "You should storm the inside and break down the doors and attack police." And they were like, fucking hell. Why didn't I think of that? Shit. Thanks, FBI agent dressed just like I am, who conveniently has put on so much weight that he would fail the FBI physical, which they're required to meet at some point in the future, but is so dedicated to being an undercover maggot that to convince me to attack. Gee whiz.
You might imagine that our founders would have been shocked to learn that an American president would one day come to embrace and excuse political violence against our own institutions.
No, actually, I wouldn't. And it's one of the reasons why we have three co-equal branches of government. They were concerned about that from the very fucking beginning. It was actually quite important.
Or knowingly send an armed mob to attack the Capitol to usurp the will of the people.
Yeah, but technically he sent an armed mob to storm the steps and stand there with their thumb up their ass like a bunch of jackasses. And again, thank God there were FBI agents there to whisper in their ear and get them to attack, because they would have just... Can you imagine how embarrassing that would have been for Donald Trump? They go all the way up there, they storm the place, they beat up cops at the bike racks coming into the place, get all the way up to the doors, and they're like, now what? And then they all turn around and go back to the stage waiting for, the second show.
Jamie Raskin went on to say that we can't release the tapes because it'll expose, intricate workings and the schematics of the Capitol building.
Yeah, that's why, by the way, fuckwad, That's why Mike Johnson's releasing shit in batches. And that's why there will be conspicuously missing certain cameras in the fucking release. But you know what? There's so many thousands of hours that you won't notice. You will not know what angles are missing. And some maggot sleuth will come on and go, why is there no camera on this door? Or why is there no camera in this hallway? If you notice, we have footage of somebody walking this way, but we don't see him going that way, because that's the part that they can't fucking show you.
Nice try, Jamie.
Nice try, okay? All right? God. So bad. Jamie, what are you thinking?
You can go online and see a map of the Capitol. Hell, you can schedule a tour of the halls yourself.
Yeah, but that won't tell you where the sensors are, where the cameras all are, which ones are real, which ones have like facial recognition. I would guess all of them now, but previous to January 6th, it was a select few because they had standard ones that had been there for a while, and then they added the new ones. That kind of shit. Now they've just got to put all those fucking bulbs everywhere like it's a fucking Walmart.
It was all a ploy to make Trump out to be the bad guy in an attempt.
No, well, I mean, he thought he could it was a ploy to make him look like a badass to himself and his followers.
To keep him from running for the White House again. We're seeing.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, they tricked all these maggots into storming the fucking Capitol and tearing down shit just to stop Donald Trump from running again.
Seeing this in multiple states where they're trying to get him off the ballot, using it as if he was convicted. He wasn't even charged.
Yeah, you don't have to be convicted or charged, dumb fuck. You just have to be recognized as part of an insurrection that's left over from the Civil War. If you did need to be charged that way, it wouldn't take 60% of the House and Senate to undo it.
But they conveniently always leave this part out.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. No. And I'm going to go down with you. And then play the part where he says, but you're going to have to fight. And if Mike Pence doesn't have the strength to do what's right, you're going to have to fight, or you won't have a country left. That whole part. And by the way, peacefully and patriotically marching to make your voices heard doesn't mean what it stops at directing them once they fucking get there.
There have been more than 1,069 defendants charged. Sure, some people did some really stupid stuff.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yes. Someone dookied in the Capitol, and there was a guy with a Confederate flag. Excuse my Southern heritage. Okay? And yes, some cops were attacked and nearly killed. And we did stomp one of our own to death while she was, having a drug-induced heart attack or whatever. And we did get one of ours shot. And we also had trucks full of guns nearby in case we were actually successful so we could send people. And we were expecting Trump to institute the Insurrection Act, but he was too busy throwing ketchup at the walls to actually get around to it, and he couldn't find his pen.
That day. Not discounting that, but not.
Yeah, you are.
Not 1,000 people. But
yeah, 1,000 people.
But some. I've reviewed as much of this video as I can since they...
Yeah, you can't. I mean, it's just... And again, the first wave. I'm sure he'll stick with this story for the third batch, which is all the good stuff.
Started releasing it.
Yeah.
And all it has done is counter the left's narrative. But the one thing that is absent right now, more than anything,
is lies through omission. No, that's a lot. There's a lot of that. That's right. It's right. There's a lot of that. Beg your pardon.
Is the footage and proof that there were 1,000 people attempting an insurrection.
Psst. 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 I mean, can't exactly fucking count all those, but ballparking.
Because if there was, all these left-leaning groups would have been putting it on the front page right now, but it's not.
Wait a minute. Putting what on the... Hold on. Back the fuck up. What's not? I don't even know that was a complete thought. What?
And proof that there were 1,000 people attempting an insurrection. Because if there was, all these left-leaning groups would have been putting it on the front page right now, but it's not.
Well, first of all, putting it on the front page right now, motherfucker, this is 2 years ago, 3 years ago. practically. Why would we be putting it on the front? This is old news to us, you dumbass.
It was very clearly not an insurrection.
Well, yeah, because it failed. It's like somebody going, Your Honor, this was very clearly not a murder, okay? I missed, okay? Yes. Did I swing at her head with a bat? Yes, I did, but she's quicker than I thought. Did I pull out a knife and start running at her like this? Yes, but I tripped over a toy, fell into the coffee table, and banged my head. When I woke up, was she calling the police? Yes. Did I pull out a gun and fire at her and actually hit the coffee pot instead of her and realize that the gun was jammed and then run in my underwear out through the backyard and jump a fence wherein my underwear got snagged on the top of the fence and I dangled there until the police arrived? Yes. But the one thing you could say about that, Your Honor, is it wasn't a murder because the bitch is still alive, okay? So, yeah, I object. Fucking hell. Yeah, this is just, yeah, great work, dude. Great, yeah, that's great. Yeah. Sure.
And you know, from what I expect from Mike Johnson,
a dangling Johnson on your forehead?
Haul every member of the January 6th committee, the FBI, the Capitol Police, everyone in front of Congress under oath and find out what they knew and when they knew it.
That's already on tape. You can just go watch it again, fuckhead, because they're going to tell you the exact same thing. Here's the question that I'm going to have. Okay. I think the bigger question is what you don't know and how come you don't know it. I've seen willful ignorance in my time, but this is amazing. Carl Higbee Sellers over here, who has health problems, is one of the most intentionally blind people, I think, working in semi-news today. Also, I on another note, I know that they're hurting for backgrounds at Newsmax, but I don't know why they have like an astrology constellation over top the United States that's supposed to be referential to what? It's not the big cities, I guess. It's not the roads in between. I'm like, is his point that America is a Leo and that's why we're having all this problem that right now? Honestly, it's just a bad time. America's horoscope is just not good this week. Should have stayed in bed, America.
Juxtapose every second of testimony against these tapes and get to the actual truth. Because
we've already gotten to the actual truth, stupid.
Because if we don't make an example out of all the bad actors, they're going to continue to wield the power of government.
Look, this is a terrible time to bring up John Voight's later career, or Kirk Cameron, or yeah, is Kirk Cameron? Yeah, he's the one in the Left Behind movies. Whew. We don't have time to go into the bad acting in that.
Through what is becoming increasingly apparent.
All I'm saying is, I thought the worst hey in a movie was Keanu Reeves in Speed when they're arguing on the bus and they're all turning on each other and he goes, hey, and they all it's like he's Jesus and they all just settle down from that one hey. I thought that was kind of the worst hey in film history until I saw Left Behind 2. Yeah, that where the UN shock troops are beating up children for trying to get food out of a van, and Kirk Cameron throws a hey their way, and I was like, yeah, you're off the fucking you're getting off scot-free there, Keanu. We love you. You're a good person. Trump 2024. He'll get 22-24. Frank, you're a silly person. Keep trying. And thanks for being here, by the way, because it's only because of you that we reach out into the algorithm of Facebook the way we do. If it's all just people who like the show watching, we'll never expand the viewership.
Innocent.
Yeah, the Rapture Force. Left Behind 2, Behind Harder. That's not... You can't.
Drop your shorts and bend over, Mr. Babar.
That's a rough scene, I have to say, in that movie.
People in jail. And this has got to stop right now.
Ah, you tell him, Carl Higbee Sellers. So we're gonna see a bunch of that shit.